So, who are the greatest players for next season? Let's talk about it. So, next season, we get a brand new season where we get to see who are the surprises and who are the overperformers, underperformers, whatever. This season, we got to see a few, but in my opinion, next season, there's a few key changes which I want to talk about, and some teams which I want to highlight. First, in the East, right, I do want to say that I think the Nets are missing the playoffs. I don't know, and if Ben Simmons goes back to his All NBA form, then I think that they'll probably be comfortably in the playoffs. But honestly, the Nets don't surprise me. Mikal Bridges is a great player, but he has to learn how to be a number one first. He's too chill. He's been getting used to all his career to being a third option, to taking things on the chiller side, to not having to do as much in the big moments because your superstar will do it. And now, when you have to take all the big shots, you have to be ready for that and do it consistently and make those shots. So, in my opinion, I think that the Nets need more growth. Nick Claxton needs to grow into a better offensive player, right? Cam Thomas needs to get minutes so that he can at least drop 15 to 20 points a game, because I do believe that that's in his bag. And they need to get a solid power forward, even if they use Dorian Finney-Smith or Royce O'Neal, that I can actually stretch the floor consistently. Second, I do believe that the Heat will go up and that the Hawks will go up and that the Bulls will go down, the Raptors go down. I don't think I need to explain these. These are very basic. The Hawks, they got rid of John Collins, but I think that Trae Young next season is going to have more freedom because John Collins was just messing up with a lot of the chemistry in the team, and I think that made it so that John Collins and so that Trae Young and DeJounte Murray couldn't be as in sync as they wanted to be. I think the Raptors just sold their franchise out. Fred VanVleet is gone, and you're stuck with a bunch of guys and Pascal Siakam, and we all know how this story goes. They're going to tank, they're going to get a good pick, then they're going to be back up. Or they're going to trade everything away, start from the bottom, but they're definitely not going to be in the playoffs next season. The Bulls, I don't think the Bulls are going to do anything next season. I like the Bulls, but in my opinion, I think their team is built horribly. They don't have a point guard because Lonzo got injured, and they haven't really found a replacement for him. And even though they did sign Torrey Craig, if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe that Zach LaVine is a winner, even if they do make it to the playoffs, and that DeMar DeRozan is a choker in the playoffs. So when it comes to everything put together, it's either they're not making the playoffs or they're going to be extremely disappointing next season. Some risers, I do believe that the Pacers and Wizards. The Wizards, Jordan Poole's just going to go crazy. And even if the team loses a bunch of games, I do believe that their morale is going to be better. It's better to have a guy dropping 30 every game which wants to go hard and wants to lead your team than having a team which you think could make the playoffs and then they don't every season. So I think the Wizards will definitely be, they won't make the playoffs. And even if they make the play-in or something, they won't win it. But it's just going to be a good season for them in terms of morale because of what they can do and how free they can be, since they know that now they're just tanking and they get time to just rebuild with Jordan Poole as their new star. The Pacers, I feel like they're going to have a better season next season. With some teams of the East getting out the way, with some teams getting worse, and the top teams basically staying the same, I do believe that they're going to get better. Tyrese is going to have more time. And that their winning percentage got better when Tyrese got there. So now he's going to be able to maximize them to the max, basically. The Pistons, Cade Cunningham is coming back. Jaden Ivey finally has his partner. Jalen Duren is finally going to start, or at least he should, in my opinion. And I believe that's very exciting. And finally, the Hornets, if they make the play-in, then it will be because of LaMelo, but we got to watch out for injuries. Finally, the Magic, I do believe they are going to be better this season. They have Markelle as their defined point guard. They have Cole Anthony coming out the bench. But in my opinion, the biggest thing is Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. In the Olympics, they're looking spectacular, both of them. And both of them have been absolutely insane when it comes to just being rookies who look like they're NBA veterans or who have been in the league for some time. I like their decision making. I like how they play the game. They just need to get better when it comes to how understanding the game of basketball from a more mature perspective and making the game easier for themselves. In the West, we have the Grizzlies. They're going to be down. Ja missing 25 games is already enough, and plus the fact that they have Marcus Smart, Now, Marcus Smart is great, but Marcus Smart is not necessarily the best offensive player of all time. And the Grizzlies are good without Ja Morant, but can they seriously keep up a good enough record without him to make them be the 2 seed again? I doubt it. I think the Suns, I think they're going to be risers. Even though that's a controversial take, I do believe that the Suns have the talent to be risers. Bradley Beal is much healthier than Chris Paul. And even if KD sits out some games, you at least have a structure there where you have 4 players that you can expect to play. And when those 4 players play, it should be very hard for you to lose if everything goes according to plan. Right? The Lakers, definite risers last season. In the second half of the season with basically the same team, they went crazy. The only thing that I will say is that losing Dennis Schroeder is an extreme L since he was a great defensive point guard and made other teams tough. And I think that when you get to the playoffs, you will see that Dennis Schroeder is going to be missed. I believe the Timberwolves will go up. They don't have as much competition next year because, let's face it, even if we do see teams being really good, the Timberwolves don't have to worry about certain teams next season, right? Like that they have had to worry about all year. I don't know if Zion is going to play next season to start, but I do believe that the Timberwolves could, make the playoffs for the 3rd straight year. The Pelicans, in my opinion, they're going to be either extreme risers or extreme losers. It all depends on Zion's health, but I do not believe in Zion, so I'm going to take the under on that. If they end up winning the championship or something, you could call me an idiot, but I do think that Zion's health problems are way too big of a struggle, and that Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, and Jonas Valanciunas are not going to win you enough games to get you comfortably into the playoffs. You need the superstar, right? The Mavericks are going to be risers. That's a 50-50 because even though the Mavericks are good, they haven't proven anything, and they're one of the teams which, even though they tanked in the end of the season, I do believe that Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving need to figure themselves out. I do believe that signing Grant Williams was great, and if JaVale McGee is actually going to play like a starter next season, then we could actually see them rise. But I'm not trusting in them to be great because they missed the playoffs last season, and they were barely even a play-in team. So I have no faith for the Mavericks right now. I'm just hoping that, Grant Williams can help heal some of their defense problems, which they have, and Seth Curry can help with spacing. The Trailblazers, I don't know. I don't think he's reporting to training camp. I think Dame is completely out of Portland, and I do think that he hates Portland. Dame is a stand-up guy, but I do think that he's so sick of Portland that he will go the extra mile just to make sure that they trade him, and I believe that that's going to bleed into the team next season. Anthony Simons and Scoot Henderson are not going to win you enough games to get into the playoffs. The Jazz, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. Like, I'm going to say down just because the West is so competitive next season. But if we're really talking about the Jazz, then I do think that the Jazz will be a great team. But they'll be a great team out of the playoffs. They'll have Laurie, they'll have Jordan Clarkson, they'll have Colin Sexton, they'll have Walker Kessler, and all those guys just developing and getting better together is going to be a great thing to see. But the thing is that the West is stacked, really stacked. So it's hard for me to envision a world where the Jazz win like more than 40 games, right? Then we have the 2 last ones, which are the Rockets and Spurs, and I do believe that these are the garbage teams. Now, the Rockets, it's because of their team structure. Yes, they got Dylan Brooks. Yes, they got Fred VanVleet. But what are you going to do with those 2 players when you don't have the talent around them for them to win games, right? Like Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet benefited greatly off of having better players on their roster who covered up for their mistakes, right? Like Fred VanVleet was a playmaker, but he was extremely inefficient. But he had Pascal Siakam, which was just an efficiency beast with that spin move. Dylan Brooks, he couldn't shoot, and his defense was his best thing. So he had Ja Morant, who could slash very well. And then he had also like Luke Kennard and Desmond Bain who could cover up his shooting deficiencies. With the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama is not going to win you enough games to get into the playoffs his first year. He has to get accustomed to the NBA. And I also am not betting that he stays healthy for the entire year. And I don't say that to say that he's going to get a season-ending injury, but I do believe that he will have some nagging ones. So yeah, that's my prediction for every team next season. I hope that I'm wrong and that we see some crazy stuff. But yeah, let me know what you think about the teams next season and who do you think is going to be at the top.